It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Tuesday, June 16th, 2025. And you know what that means. It's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 346 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. I am Lam, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm joined by my comrade in gaming commentary, the Miggity Mac, also known as Maction, also known as the Birthday Boy.
Yeah.
Mac, happy birthday, man. How do you feel?
Thanks, dude. I feel good.
Are you 40 now? Is this your 40th?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. Okay.
Plus or minus 10 years, you know.
Plus or minus 10.
Right? We can't be more specific than that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. We don't want people knowing how old we are. Well, good. Mac, it's good to see you, man. What is new in your life since last week?
Dude, not too frightfully much. It's really been just sort of a normal week. I know I've mentioned that I'm in the process of moving, relocating the house, so, you know, lots of packing up things, getting stuff ready for that. Still things that need to be done before, before you've got occupancy certificates and such. But one thing that is kind of fun is I did spend some time over the weekend prepping for the this upcoming weekend's Renaissance Fair over in Canby, Oregon.
Ooh.
And so
okay.
We're going to, go with some friends, show up for probably Saturday, maybe Saturday and Sunday. We'll see, but I'm excited. The thing I'm most excited for, Mr. Nice Guy, is when I go to a Renaissance Fair, I do it right. I don't pay with a card. I don't pay with paper. I pay in gold coins. You know the ones I'm talking about, the $1 gold coins. I go to a bank, sometimes several banks, the week or whatever before, and I get gold coins. So if you want to punch me real hard, I will drop gold coins like a video game character.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog dropping rings, I'll be dropping coins. But it is fun to be like, it's just like, so how much is this? Oh, it's $10. Oh, $10, and they call me a pirate. And then I'll just put a pile of coins on there and be like,
dude,
there you go.
The comedian in me immediately thought of a joke premise as you were talking about that. Sonic the Hedgehog making it rain.
Oof, mm-hmm.
And how many people would get injured and there would be lawsuits. And I feel like there's something there, but I feel like I'd have to write it out to make it super funny. But Mac, that's good, man. So life is good. It's your birthday. Regular day, like we're not kids anymore. We were talking about this pre-show. We are not 12 years old. I don't spoil myself on my birthday. It's a regular day. Do you do anything? Did you get anything for yourself? Did you say, you know what? I want that Mega Man t-shirt that I've been eyeing for a while. Or did you say, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy the day. I'm alive. I'm happy.
So I believe my wonderful spouse has ordered me something that
Nice.
I'll show off when it arrives. But for me spoiling myself, I did treat myself to a good milkshake and an excellent dinner. So
Love it.
So yeah, that's about as exciting as we got this time around.
That's awesome. Well, I don't want to say anything on your birthday about what I've been up to. It's your day.
No, please.
This is all you.
Dude, sure, this might be my birthday, but this is about catching up and hanging out after a week.
That's exactly what it's about. And I'm going to seem like a one-upper. I should have gone first. My wife and I went to a nice dinner as well.
Ooh.
This past week. And the reason why is because we celebrated our anniversary.
Oh, anniversary. Well, that's important too.
We love you, but no. You know what we should do, sweetheart? We should honor Mac and go out to eat without him. That would be...
That sounds wonderful, Lam. You're such a good friend.
Yeah, no, we celebrated our anniversary, so we went out and had a nice dinner.
Excellent.
And that was super fun. And then Father's Day was this weekend.
Yeah.
And that was super fun, too. And my kids took good care of me. My wife took good care of me. Had some apple French toast. And I did not smoke meat, Mac.
Okay.
I did not use my smoker.
I'm not going to lie. I was wondering this whole weekend, I bet Lam's going to have some good smoked meat stories when we get back to the pod.
No, and brisket was on my mind. You know what I mean? Which it's always on my mind. But I said, you know what? Even though I have a pellet smoker that does most of the work, I don't want to do that today. I just want to sit around and I just want to relax and enjoy my family. And I did, and it was great. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And Mac, on that note, I say we do what we do best and hop right up in that gaming news, my friend. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Lom, what is new in Vigigaming?
So much. And thank you for tuning in, everybody, to episode 346 of Two Nerds in a Pod, Maction Edition. Mac, the first thing I want to share with the people is simply a freebie. Now, we use the phrase on this podcast, baller on a budget, regularly. And I feel like I would not be doing my job as one of the top 100 podcasts on the internet. And actually, I think we're probably like top 25, if we're being honest.
Oh.
But we were on a list recently of top 100 podcasts, video game podcasts. I think we're like top 25, maybe even top 10. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell people about these baller deals that they can get on Steam that I come across every once in a while. And I'm going to bet you didn't know about this one either. This is on GameSpot.com, written by Blair Marnell. Metroidvania titles are as popular as ever. And if you're looking for one to play right now, you've got a free option on Steam for a limited time. Paradox Soul made its debut in 2018, and it's yours for the taking if you grab it fast. Paradox Soul was developed by Ritual Games and published on Steam by Grab the Games. The story is set in Iceland in 1987, and it places players in control of Dr. Ali Rose, a research scientist who is exploring a test facility. Bottom line, y'all, it is free on Steam, and it ends today. So if you want to go pick up Paradox Soul, Mac, I watched the video, gave me Cave Story vibes. Question for you. Obviously, you're going to get this, right? You're going to claim it. You probably are claiming it right now.
Well spotted, my good man. Well spotted.
My question for you is when you get these free games, we all have huge backlogs. Do they ever make it into the rotation? Do you play them immediately? Do you save them for a rainy day? What's your strategy with these free games that come out?
Great question, and I'd like to share with you all what I call the Mac method. So, what I do is about once every couple of months, maybe once a quarter, I've got a list of games or folder of games or queue of games or whatever they call it. But I make a folder with the sort of tag of next up. And so into that, I put basically in this queue the games that I'm just like, all right, these are the games that I want to play most of the library that I already have. And then those ones I select when I'm like, oh, I need a new game. I select only from my next up queue. Anything that's not in the next up queue, I'm just like, I gotta hold off on that for some other time. So that's what I do to burn through. And then after it's done with the next up, I move it into a separate folder called completed, just so that I can be like, okay. And sometimes it'll go into a favorites, so Chasm's in there, Celeste is in there.
Sure.
Mega Man Legacy Collections are in there. Things that everybody sort of instinctively knew about me, not breaking it. But that's what I do to try and make sure that I get through these backlogs.
Nice. And I have no strategy. I will say this, maybe at the beginning of every year, I get 5 games where I'm like, I played this, I didn't play it enough. I'm going to put it into this folder that says games to play in 2025, right?
Okay.
And I'll play that before I buy new stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I got to give this a shot because what if it's the next big thing for me?
Yeah.
Right? I already have spent the money. I'm already invested. Maybe I've put 5 hours in and it didn't click at the time. But I'll tell you what game didn't click for me at the time. Fallout 3 didn't click for me at the time. And went on to be one of my favorite games ever. So sometimes you got to give games a second chance, and that's why we have backlogs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we leave that, I am curious, what is it that you think that made it click that second time around?
I think it was literally timing. I think it was at a time when it was like 2010, 2011. I've told the story before about how I got the Xbox for Christmas, Xbox 360. And I was a young husband. I was a young dad at that point, I believe, when I got Fallout 3. And I just had other priorities, as I should, right? Like spending time with family, doing things. But I still had that downtime and that freedom to play games. And so I remember playing it and being like, I've never really been an RPG guy. Mm-hmm. So this isn't really for me. But then I gave it a second try for whatever reason and could not put it down. The gunplay, the freedom of exploration, just the scope. And then the NPC interactions just got me in, and I've always loved Fallout since then.
Nice. Nice. Well, thanks for sharing about Paradox Soul, Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
It's on my list now.
Let's keep it moving. There's a lot of stuff, but we'll probably just hit 2 or 3 of these today. This next one is Nexus Mods. It's on PCGamer.com, written by Rich Stanton.
Oh, I'm so glad you're talking about this. Please, Mr. Nice Guy, give us the news.
Dude, I'm going to read about it and then just open it up to you to share your thoughts. So, the founder of Nexus Mods, Robin Dark One Scott, has announced he's stepping back from the day-to-day running of the site a full 24 years after founding it. Quote, I started this project back in 2001 in my bedroom with a 56K modem. For those at home, that was internet when you had to dial up using your phone. For those who don't know. He continues to say, an excitement for the upcoming release of Morrowind and with no grand ambitions or intentions, writes Scott. Quote continues, I didn't set out to build a business. I just wanted to make a place where modders could share their work without worrying it would vanish into the internet, either the next time a fan site went offline or a publisher decided they were done with it. End quote. What a quote, because that's something we talk about a lot on the pod.
Yeah.
For context, the article says Nexus Mod is the biggest mod site in the world, and last year it popped the cork on over 10 billion downloads. It boasts millions of users, hosts mods for thousands of games, and it's evolved and has added excellent functionality and features like enabling creators to monetize their work. Mac, I believe he quit because it was a mental health move. He said it took its toll on him. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, look, you gotta take care of yourself. You can't help anybody if you don't help yourself first, and it doesn't do the community any good if you are running yourself ragged because we need you. So more power to him if he's stepping away for that. Mr. Nice Guy, is there any information in that article about who it is that's taking over Nexus Mods?
I'm sure there is, and I probably should reference that. He goes on to say the strain of being responsible for the behemoth they created has taken its toll. And then it says, Scott believes he's found the exact right people for the task, and thus the ownership of Nexus Mods has changed hands. But from the user side of things, nothing should change. It doesn't say who it is. Do you already know by chance?
No, because what I had heard was that there was an undisclosed buyer for it, which concerns me a little bit.
Oh, hold on. So, my bad. So, it does go... So, first of all, he says most of what you see on the site today is created by a team of 40 incredibly dedicated people, some of whom have been here for over 9 years. And then it says the site's new co-leaders will be Foldinaho and Rapsk, both of whom have deep roots in gaming, tech, and most importantly, they give a damn about the site, the community, and the future we're trying to build here. Scott says he'll still be lurking around.
So it sounds like and maybe I'm crazy there, but it sounds like those are two people who are already a part of the scene who will be
Correct.
taking over duties. I can't help but get concerned when people sell sites, because obviously, clearly, he has had, for the most part, the interests of the community, of preservation and things like that in, forefront of his mind. I always worry about who the next person is that gets their hands on the wheel, or who owns it, or what's from there. So I don't know who's bought Nexus Mods, but I am worried that they won't be dedicated to the preservation, to the ease of modding, and the general overall mission. Now, to be fair, I should say that there have been times and places where I've been worried without any, real need. Good example, Digital Eclipse, who made the Mega Man Legacy Collection, does a lot of good game preservation work, wound up getting helmed. The company got helmed by the dude, I believe by the same dude who did the whole, hey, if you don't want to buy an Xbox and always be online, we've got a product for you. It's called the Xbox 360. I believe that very dude, who we all, I think rightfully, took to task for not recognizing gaming in general's concern for the digital-only future, that he apparently went on to run a company that has been primarily focused on digital preservation. So, hey, people can surprise you sometimes, is what I'm saying.
People can change. That's right.
People can change. My big concern with an undisclosed buyer is what will change. Life is change, and what will change for Nexus mods. So I was worried.
I'm a little bit more positive. Like, I'm more optimistic than you.
Oh, yeah, way more.
Because it's one thing, at least when it comes to this, it's one thing to sell to Activision, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to sell to people who you've been working side by side with and who you maybe have handpicked, who care, as he said, right?
Sure.
And so I think that people who are familiar with the community, who are familiar with the cause, and who have been there for years and years and years are more likely to keep the mission on course than someone who may be in it simply for the profits.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that they agree on everything with the original founder, but I think that it gives me more hope that the site will continue to be successful and continue to serve its purpose based on who he chose. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's co-founders. It's not one individual. So hopefully there's some checks and balances built in there that will keep things going. That's what I have to say about that.
I sincerely hope that it winds up being good, that it stays the course or even improves in the future. But when I heard that news, my mind first went to, undisclosed buyer. Who's that now? And what are they planning on doing with the mod site? Just feel like lots of room for stuff to go downhill but you know, that's just me being negative Ned the naysayer.
Well, hey, we got time for one last news story. There's actually like 3 more really good ones, but we're an hour-long pod, y'all. By design.
Mm-hmm.
This next one's from GameInformer.com by Wesley LeBlanc, and I don't know if this is what you're talking about for legalese, but we're going to talk about voice acting in SAG-AFTRA on the off chance that maybe you're talking about it as well. Following yesterday's news that SAG-AFTRA had reached a tentative agreement with signatory game companies such as Activision, Disney, EA, Epic Games, and more, the union has announced its ongoing video game actor strike will end today. This was written on the 11th. The strike began last July after months of failed negotiations. Quote, all SAG-AFTRA members are instructed to return to work on productions under the IMA Interim Interactive Media Agreement, including work promoting or publicizing projects produced under the IMA, a press release reads. The SAG-AFTRA National Board will meet in a special session tomorrow, June 12th, to consider the tentative agreement. If approved, it will be sent out for ratification by the union's membership in accordance with established policy. Details of the agreement will be released at that time. Mac, obviously, anytime someone's striking and out of work, or a group of people are striking and out of work, it can cause challenges for the industry that they work in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the SAG-AFTRA thing? What do you think about the voice actors coming back? What do you think about strikes in general as they relate to media?
Well, we've got backlogs, so we're going to be fine, especially in video games.
Yeah.
But the frustrating thing is that it can be very, very difficult, especially in the landscape that we have, where there are, this is a little hyperbolic, but there are 3 companies that own all of video games.
That's an exaggeration.
It is an exaggeration, but those 3 companies own well more than 50% of game development studios. Probably by volume. And so it comes a point in time where you need sometimes to strike so that people will give you the kinds of working conditions and things that you want. So yeah, I'm all for a strike, and they do tend to improve working conditions. And not just for like the people who are inside that union, but often the people in ancillary things. Like, good example, you might have like all the employees in in say a field be in a union, right? And they do their collective bargaining, they get higher wages or whatever. And let's say that management isn't in a union, right? Like lower management. They're not going to pay their management lower than they're going to pay their union represented employees. So their higher paychecks usually bump up management paychecks as well. You can have a lot of positive knock-on effects for other people, even if you're not directly part of the union. Anyway, I've been a part of several different unions in my own professional life, and they've all done me pretty good. I know that there are horror stories out there. In general, though, I approve of collective bargaining and of the SAG-AFTRA strike generally.
Okay.
I am glad to see them coming back, and I hope that I'm not in SAG-AFTRA. I have not been following this because it hasn't been directly impacting me, but I hope that what concessions or what agreements they got as a result of things wind up being good for them. I hope it included protections for them against, AI voice generation.
And when you say AI voice generation, you're meaning like duplication of people's literal voices, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was something that was a bit of a sticking point. I don't know if that made it into the final draft, but I know that was something that concerned a lot of people. And yeah, I hope that it was a concern that was taken seriously.
Here's my thing about the whole strike.
Yeah.
And I don't even really want to talk about the strike, but what I'll say is video game voice actors and actresses are not fully appreciated.
Agreed.
And there's a lot of proof of this. The fact that they were considering AI voice duplication of individuals is one very, very key point. The other thing in my mind is the length of this strike. And the writer's strike that happened a while back that affected TV shows and movies also shows that writers are underrated and not appreciated. Because if a teacher was to go on strike, and let me be clear, I'm not saying that what teachers do for our society and what voice actors and actresses do is the same, but I will say a teacher's strike, the idea of it going from July to June, it just wouldn't happen, right? They'd be like, no, we got to get my kids out of the house and back in the classroom. Like, we got to get these kids getting educated. With voice actors and actresses, this was dragged out for a really, really, really long time. And so to me, it shows that they weren't fully appreciated for the work that they do. And that's really kind of the only point that I want to make is I'm glad that they stuck to their guns, because they could have easily caved and been like, nope, I need more money. I need to get back to work. But instead they said, no, we're going to get what we feel we deserve. And they negotiated and they got it. I don't know if it's Martin Luther King Jr. who said that protests are the voice of the unheard. And I feel like strikes are kind of the same thing. And whether you're for or against unions, I think that unions do provide representation for those who may not be in a position to represent themselves or to articulate or to have the platform to represent themselves. So in that sense strictly, I think they're a good thing. Mac, anything else you want to say about the news today?
I'm glad it's over. I hope they got what they were hoping for in their new updated contracts, and it'll be great to have them back.
Yeah. The fact that we know who so many of these voice actors and actresses are strictly because of the games that they've done shows to me the value that they add simply by being a part of projects and the pull that they should have when it comes to negotiating. And that's been our news for the week.
We've taken a look at what's going on right now. Let's look into the past. Mr. Nice Guy.
Yes.
I want you to think for a moment on your favorite Game Boy Advance title. This will come up later.
Okay.
So we have had a lot of interesting things this last week in years before. I'll start at the far end. 2015, the return of the Nintendo World Championships. So that it was on a 25-year hiatus because they had their first one back in 1990. Obviously, when people went to and won on the Nintendo World Championships, they had those special carts, those gold cartridges with dip switches on the front of them that they used to play those various games. And as a reward for beating those, and obviously those Nintendo World Championship cartridges, very few were made. And those are, I believe, the most expensive NES cartridges out there because they are the rarest, being limited run as they were.
Sure.
Anyway, it had been 25 years since the 1990 Nintendo World Championships, and they had their return in 2015. Obviously, that occurred starting with qualifying competitions in May of 2015 at Best Buy locations. Wild to think. And you were playing a special competition mode of Ultimate NES Remake at these locations. They took the best of the best, put it forward. There are a couple of people that I am familiar with through, Twitch, having participated, watched some of their stuff, and even had some of them in events that I was participating in as well, like Trihex and the Mexican runner who wound up not making it to the finale. At the end of it, Shigeru Miyamoto showed up at the end and gave a trophy to the winner.
What?
With a Nintendo 3DS XL to each of the 2 finalists at the thing. It was a brilliant and fantastic repeat of the I don't know, of the excitement and the fun of the Nintendo World Championships. And they didn't wait too much longer because they did another one in 2017, but that didn't happen today in video game history. So I'll save that for another time, but rather the return in 2015.
Right.
And it was great. Nice
Sure.
guy, did you wind up watching any coverage on the 2015
event? I think I did at the time. It's been a decade.
Yeah.
So I couldn't remember any specifics, but I definitely was into it at the time, 100%.
It was a good time. I do have some vague recollections of watching it, but mostly I just remember watching some of the Super Mario Maker levels that they were playing that looked absolutely insane. Now, how little did I realize, because Super Mario Maker at the time was not released. So nobody really kind of that kind of served a little bit sort of like a soft launch of the title, which we would go on to see insanely more difficult Mario Maker levels as time would go on, basically a meme at this point. But I remember just having my mind blown by the difficulty spike in those games that they showed on that. It was very cool. Well,
yeah, there's 2 takeaways from that type of competition real quick. Number 1 is that there's an audience for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, if you're really into something and there's a group of people who are also into it, there will be people who will watch you do it.
Yeah.
And that is awesome. The other thing about Super Mario Maker is I remember when it came out thinking, oh, this is going to be one of the biggest games of all time. Like, the idea of creating your own Mario levels and having it be licensed and approved of by Nintendo. And it didn't get nearly as big as I thought it would have, which speaks to the saturation of games in the industry. But still, both those games, Mario Maker 1 and 2, awesome.
Agreed. Well, now, Mr. Nice Guy, let's turn the clock back to 2001. The launch of the Game Boy Advance. Now, we all know the types of titles that launched with: Super Mario Advance, High Heat Baseball, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Pitfall, The Mayan Adventure, Choo Choo Rocket, Rayman, Castlevania Circle of the Moon. 15 launch titles when it launched in 2001. Honestly, my Game Boy Advance that I was given as a birthday gift around that point in time was actually was Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, which, real talk, not the greatest game for the Game Boy Advance, but my parents, they tried. They shot and they missed, but they tried, and what was important was they tried. I also got myself a copy. That's neither here nor there. Mr. Nice Guy, Game Boy Advance, a fantastic console. Surprising that we could have a handheld just work on 2 AA batteries. It had a lot of power. It had some power pretty similar to the Super Nintendo.
Exactly.
And it absolutely saw me through many, many years of good times and game playing. But Mr. Nice Guy, if there was a favorite game of yours on the Game Boy Advance, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say, and this is very, very easy for me because it's one of the games that I feel was a true Super Nintendo experience and was influential in me really, really getting into Metroidvanias, and that's Metroid Fusion. Because it was the first Metroid game that I actually played from start to finish, and I wanted to uncover like 100% of the map. I like, it was just such an amazing experience. The story was really cool. Samus having to absorb the different diseases, I can't remember the exact term, the different cells, whatever they were. What a game. What a game. Hands down, Metroid Fusion.
Excellent. For me, it would have to be Golden Sun. I really enjoyed that game. The lore, it's a, sort of a fantasy turn-based RPG. Good times, great stuff. But in the interest of time, Mr. Nice Guy, that is what we had for gaming history this week.
Nice. And it works out because we have a shorter topic of the week this week, which, by the way, that's where we're at, is the topic of the week. By the way, shout out to Spennis, who is getting ready to go to, I believe it's called the Southern Fried Game Show, or Game Convention in Atlanta. He leaves this week, and he says there's going to be a lot of indies there, and he may want us to try to review some of them. So, Spennis, come with your ideas. We'll check them out. We're excited to see, and then we'll get back to reviewing some indies. But, Mac, today I want to talk to you about consumer influence on games. This is on IGN.com, and it is about Borderlands 4. Written by Wesley Ian Poole. Here's what Wesley writes. Borderlands 4 will cost $70. Publisher 2K Games has confirmed as pre-orders go live. The cost of Gearbox's next game was thrust into the headlines after development chief Randy Pitchford had sparked a backlash with a series of controversial tweets. Pitchford had responded to a fan who had expressed concern about the prospect of paying $80 for Borderlands 4, saying, quote, "If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen," unquote. Pitchford addressed the negativity surrounding his comments in a series of follow-up tweets, but now we have confirmation that the Borderlands 4 Standard Edition is $69.99 after all. It then goes in, Mac, to the editions and what they all contain. I'm not going to go through all of that, but bottom line, originally it was going to be $80, now it's $70 after some backlash due to a bad quote. Do we think that the fans actually influenced this, or do we think that it was kind of a bait and switch type of thing, a la, oh, here's how you share games on your Xbox versus here's how you share games on your PlayStation 5. Did they backpedal, or did we do this, the price change?
It's so tough to say, Mr. Nice Guy. This is one way in which I think I am going to be the optimist, where I think that, yeah, we the gamers did do this by being like, hey, what? And then them deciding to eat that $10. Yeah, I think his backlash caused this price point being $70 instead of $80, 100%.
Interesting. And I don't know that it did. And simply because The Outer Worlds 2 is about to come out, it's going to be an $80 Microsoft title.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Borderlands 4, or Borderlands in general, has a much bigger audience and a much bigger fan base than a game like The Outer Worlds. Or even... I won't say that they have a bigger audience than Mario Kart, because Mario Kart's huge. But there's been a precedent set that there are certain games that cost $80 now, which is frustrating, but that's where we're at. And if any game was going to cost that much, I wouldn't be surprised if Borderlands did, because of the amount of content that it has. I don't know, man. I'm on the fence, but I don't know that that's what happened.
Obviously we can't be sure, but I think so. But I will say this more generally about games costing more money, things like that. We're inundated with games, big titles. I mean, heck, we've got quadruple A games these days. But we've got these huge titles, often games that are taking years upon years upon years to come out.
Right.
Often when they do come out, they have game-breaking bugs. They have things that need day one patches that are larger than the initial file itself. Stuff like that. There is a extent to which, for all of the more money that studios are asking for games, I feel like we've really somehow... the incentive structure has shifted away from smaller and medium-sized games that are actually finished, as opposed to larger projects that are so sweeping and so expansive and unfinished when they launch, but also demanding top dollar. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but I feel like something's got to give at some point in time, because I don't think we want to pay $80 for a game. I also don't think we necessarily want to always be playing huge titles, and I don't think we also want to be always paying for games that need, 6 months after the fact, that are really just beta builds that haven't been fully tested.
Right.
And we get them for the $80. I don't know what will make the difference, but I kind of feel naive or optimistic when I say, oh, hey, we convinced them one way or the other to drop that price to $70. And I feel like, as it should be, the next thing we need to do is do something about the games that are, that are taking 8 years. I mean, you don't want a video game to take 8 years to make. We got to tell them, hey guys, we want some games that we can get something new every couple of years in the series. Make us smaller episodic things, kind of like they did with like Half-Life 2 with episode 1 and episode 2, giving us smaller episodic things, allowing us to not have to wait so long for a title and have a title that's finished and in our hands. I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy.
So 2 things. So I'm a hypocrite here because whenever we do a kick or kickstart,
we are all hypocrites here, man.
We're all hypocrites. That should be on a t-shirt. So whenever we do a kick or kickstart and someone's asking for like $10,000 and the game is like 2 years out, I'm like, that's not enough. You need to be asking for more to be able to fund what you are doing. These big game studios put all this time and energy and cost and blood, sweat, and tears and sometimes even crunch into making these games, and then on the back end, they're trying to recoup them, much like a movie. You put $10 million into a movie, you want to make enough profit to justify what you did. On the front end of Kickstarters, we're telling people to ask for more. On the back end of these big titles, we're telling them that they should ask for less. So I'm a hypocrite there.
I don't think you're a hypocrite there. I think you are moving toward the healthy middle. We're talking about people who are doing something on an absolute knife's edge, razor edge, and then on the other hand, maybe, dare I say it, some fat pigs that are really, really bloated and just drinking up the monies. I think smaller studios, medium-sized studios, something toward the middle. I don't think that makes you a hypocrite. I think the people on Kickstarter really do need to be asking for more money, by and large. And the ones on the opposite side, the AAA, quadruple A's, need to be a bit more realistic and asking for a little bit less.
I don't know, because I want them to pay the voice actors, Mac.
Oh, heck yeah.
You know what I mean? To reference what we're talking about before. But here's the other thing that I'll say. It's one thing to ask $80 for a game where the only way that you can play that game is by buying a physical or digital copy. It's another thing to ask $80 for a game when there's another option to purchase it, and that's as part of a console bundle like a new Mario Kart game or as part of Game Pass subscription. So The Outer Worlds, crazy that they're asking $80, maybe, but they're also making the option that you can play it on Game Pass for a $15, $20 a month subscription, right? Mario Kart, crazy they're asking $80, but also if you buy it with the console, I believe you maybe get a little bit of a discount for what you're getting. I can't remember. Point being, with Borderlands, he was out of touch with his comments about you'll find a way to make it happen. Now, is it only a $10 difference? Yes, it is. But all he had to do was say nothing. And maybe they would still be getting that $80 price tag that they wanted.
Maybe.
Borderlands 4 is going to be dope. I'm hyped for it. I think that I'm on the fence as to whether or not we influence this stuff. I really am.
As with most things, the truth probably lies in the middle.
Corporations do this all the time. This is my last thought, Mac, and then you can say what you want. They take something away that they were never going to take away, and then when people complain, they give you the exact thing they were going to give you all along and make you feel like you won. And that may be what's happening here. It may be. That has been our topic of the week.
All right, well, now we turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. We call this Kick or Kickstart, and you'll have to tell me if you think that they are asking enough for this one. It is a title called Ahoy! It is a nautical game in the Age of Sail. So we're talking, 1780 or so, somewhere in there, powdered wigs, that sort of stuff. Think, Curse of the Black Pearl, and you are in the right general area. This game, they're asking £35 for this, which comes out to about $48 US. So a Kickstarter game that's basically $50 per game from Capstan Games. It's their first Kickstarter, and this is from an indie dev. So basically, this game comes in a couple of different sets. You are exploring on large, tall ships around... the 1780s. That's what I meant. In the 1780s, around the West Indies in things. There's obviously, it wouldn't be an Age of Sail game if it didn't have cannons, if it didn't have piracy, if it didn't have making landfall, supplies, all those sorts of things. But also, they are going for a multiplayer approach to this and open world to some extent. Now, one of the things that they're working on, and they do say in their sort of roadmap in general, is that they're aiming to have the public release and the game's release date to be Q4 of 2026. So a year and a half out. But they don't have an estimate on their open world, section of the game. There's no TBD on that. So anyway, there are some stretch goals here about what sorts of things they'll add once they hit various milestones and levels. And at the top, they were asking for $108,000 in order to fund this game. They have 20 days left to go, and they're sitting at $530,000. But also, their campaign was fully funded in 21 hours, which $100,000 in 21 hours, I don't know. When I see that on a Kickstarter, I usually think they've got some either really good marketing people in the background also helping them out on their team, or maybe they had a few of those awards at the big awards go to somebody to get them started. A little bit of seed money. Who knows?
Sure.
Who knows?
Sure.
It's just me. It's just me saying. Anyway,
You never know.
Mr. Nice Guy, what do you think? Is this type of thing for you?
It is for me. Not the genre, or rather not the setting, because I've never really been into these sailing games. There's one on Xbox. I can't remember the name right now.
And
But this
there's
looks
an
very, very
Assassin's
cool.
Creed Black Flag that kind of has some sailing in it, yeah?
There is, yeah, and that one wasn't for me. But what I will say about this is that it looks very, very cool. It looks almost, we were talking about Fallout earlier, it looks almost like a Fallout style of game, but in a boat pirate 1780s setting. I think the biggest challenge with something like this is that it's multiplayer, and it's also trying to be a game as service. Meaning that they will consistently update it. Now, it's one thing to have an indie game that's a game as service, a Stardew Valley, a Dead Cells, a game where you're consistently updating it. And I guess Stardew Valley is multiplayer, but it's another thing to have something of this scope that's a game as service, and to hope that, one, your audience will continue to be interested, and two, that you, as a first-time game studio, will have the skills and I don't want to say knowledge, but like the knowing the temperature of your audience to keep them engaged and consistently put out content that will keep them coming back for more over and over and over again. I think that is a very tall task for an online multiplayer game, indie or not. That's it.
Yeah. So, Mr. Nice Guy, obviously there's tons of different levels for this, reward levels. Like I mentioned, your minimum buy-in to get a copy of the game is £35, 48 US dollars. And it scales up from there with, the Admiral level being $2,700. And gets you things like 6 keys at release and Sea Trials access, a lifetime content pass, and a physical handmade captain's hat. And you'll get included in the game as an NPC and all the other previous tier rewards and such. But how does a approximately $50 starting, buy-in strike you?
It strikes me as silly. I guess the thing is, you pay $50 and then hopefully you're getting all the DLC and all the live games as service stuff as part of it. The challenge is they would need to have some type of monetization in order for this game to really, really keep going, because you can't rely simply on more and more people purchasing copies of the game after it comes out as a way of funding your continued servers and your continued support of the game. So you have to, 1, create a game with a big enough audience that it makes sense to continue making it. 2, make a game that's good enough that that audience stays engaged. And then 3, have a way to continue the revenue after launch. And I don't know that they have that in place.
So I will speak a little bit to what I think the strategy is, since basically what they're saying is the game will be released in 3 stages, where the first one is a multiplayer thing where you can learn the ropes of playing the game, and you can do so multiplayer. And then when they're ready, they drop basically the head-to-head thing where you can outfit your ship and basically have team battles with your ships. And then, of course, the third one being, and this is the version that doesn't have, has like a big TBD, is the persistent multiplayer sandbox that presumably would need to be constantly hosted. It seems like step 1, you could just host yourself. Step 2 would need some kind of small serving happening, but I mean, like, it's not like you can't do that on your own. We used to do that all the time with StarCraft, and it's strange to think that a 2000s tech could not fit for that, but rather that game as a service that you're talking about, that third one there, online persistent multiplayer sandbox being the thing that would be, that they would need people to constantly be supporting and coming in. And it will be interesting. I think it has a little bit of promise in the sense that it's not going straight to multiplayer persistent sandbox immediately. They've got time to work and perfect the game itself. But at the same time, then it does kind of feel like, what we're getting is alpha and beta games instead of, the complete one. So possibilities and drawbacks, and 50 seems like a bit much of a thing. I would be willing to take a risk at something closer to 25 to 30 personally, but that is just me.
Hey, I mean, they're at $500,000, so they're doing something
They're
right.
clearly doing something right. What the heck do I know? But I do know that there is no playable demo as a part of this. So for whatever promise I think it might have, all I've got is just your best word that you can make it work and some nifty renders. And they do say all the stuff in this video is in-game assets and rendered on the Unreal Engine. And I mean, I've heard that before. Don't tell me. Show me. Put the controller in my hands. Let me try it out. And that's what I got to say about that. A kick for me because of no demo.
Yeah, this is tough because I like the ambition. I just don't know if I see the vision. Because a games as service, like you think about people who have done it successfully. And I'm not talking about indies. I'm talking about like AAA, because this is an indie game but with a AAA scope. It's $50. Destiny 2, right? Like that's a really successful one. Monster Hunter. But all of those are studios that had the wherewithal to do it and already had the audience due to things they had created previously. So I think that this is just extremely, extremely risky. It's not a single player campaign. It's designed to go on forever or for longer. And so I have to say kick. I just don't know if I see the vision.
Well, we do wish everybody the best. And obviously, Ahoy sounds ambitious, it sounds great, and there are clearly plenty of people who want it. We wish you the best, but for those reasons and more, just not quite for us. This has been Kick or Kickstart.
That's right. Well, now it's time for Nerd Flex. Woohoo! A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the host. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you're here live and you want to participate, feel free to put a multiple choice gaming-related question in the chat. Mac and I will use nothing but our noggins to try to answer it and see if we can get it right. Now, Mac, we also have this test bank, and we're going to start with the test bank today. Here is the first question. It's a Sonic question. What is the name of the creatures first introduced in Sonic Adventure designed to be digital pets?
Oh.
What is the name of creatures first introduced in Sonic Adventure designed to be digital pets?
Dude, I'm not going to mince words. I don't know if I remember, but I feel like Choi is something like CHO or some variation of that. I remember a friend playing Sonic Adventure, and like these little pets would either get like evil or good depending upon how you treated them.
It's not Tamagotchi. It's not Digimon.
Yeah.
It's not Pokemon. But do you remember Tamagotchi? Those things were so popular.
I remember Digimon because I had a Digimon. I didn't have a Tamagotchi.
Ooh, I never had one. Well, I don't know what the answer is, but let's go with Choi since that came to your mind. Ah, you were so close. It's Chaos. CHAOS.
CHAOS.
Chaos.
I'll take the L.
Okay, well, that's all right. Here is another question. It's an FPS question. Ooh. How many successive kills must a player get to be rewarded a tactical nuke in Modern Warfare 2?
Never played.
How many kills? Successive kills.
What is it?
So-
What's the answer, dude?
It's either 25 or 30. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's not multiple choice, so I'll go 30.
I'm pretty sure it's 30. Actually, I don't know. It might be 25. I legit don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's one of those.
Okay.
So you can go 30. I'll go 25. Final answer. Let's keep it moving. See if we're right. If I'm right. It's 25.
25,
It is 25 indeed. Because nukes end the game, which is absurd. Okay, here's a Mario question. What level does Mario race a penguin in Super Mario 64? What level does Mario race a penguin in Super Mario 64? I remember the level.
Same.
Like the back of my hand. I can't remember the name.
Something like Chili Slope,
Downhill.
Slippery Slope,
Something. It actually might be Slippery Slope. You might be right.
Slippery Slope, Slippy Slope, something like that.
Slippery Slope. Let's see what the answer is. Slip sliding away.
Slip sliding away.
Well, we went what? Would we go 1 for 3 or 2 for 3?
1 out of 3.
We'll take it. That has been Nerdflex.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
Mr. Nice Guy, and those of you who've listened to the show before, you know that one of the things I hate more than anything else is settlements in a lawsuit, because when people settle, when we get a settlement, we don't learn that much about what really went on. It just becomes kind of a black box. But when the lawsuits actually keep on going, we learn some interesting things, and that's one of the cases of today. This is called Michelonis v. Aspire Media. And Mr. Nice Guy, you might vaguely recall that we talked about this back in 2023. It's a case about Knights of the Old Republic 2, specifically some fans suing the porting company for their port of KOTOR 2 on the Switch. The company, Aspire Media, of course.
Sure.
Back in 2022, Aspire ported Knights of the Old Republic 2 to Switch, and they announced that a fan mod, the Restored Content mod, would be an included DLC when it was complete if you bought the port.
Okay.
Now, that was a big deal because the Restored Content mod included tons of voiced audio, several hours of additional storylines, planets, and new endings, bug fixes, and other events that were in the game's code, but not accessible until the fans got to work modding Knights of the Old Republic 2. These were all things that were included in the code, but not accessible because BioWare was trying to get the title out the door quicker.
Sure.
And so all of that stuff would be available within the year of 2022. And then in 2023, after no word on it for a while, Aspire announced that they were canceling the DLC. They offered, of course, people, they're like, hey, we know we let you down, but here, you can have another game that we had ported for free. And some folks, were just like, hey guys, finish it or refund it, because we bought this only because we wanted the Restored Content mod for the title on the Switch. Interestingly, this has been going on for a while, but in a new filing that Aspire put, just last month, they said some stuff that I had never heard before, and I wanted to share real quick. So,
please do.
While reading, they tell kind of this tale about how fraught the whole thing was. According to Aspire, the first issue that they ran into with the release of these fan mods as part of the DLC was that Lucasfilm, the people who owned the rights to it, didn't like the idea of crediting people by their handles instead of their real names. They're like, and so I went through, Mr. Nice Guy, I went through the credits on this, and there are no, I wanted to be fair. There are no profanities in the usernames. So, it's just them being uptight or whatever. But eventually, they wound up getting the suits to come around on that. But then the people at Lucasfilm were just like, oh, well, you need to have every mod contributor sign the legal paperwork relinquishing their work on the port. And then the second hurdle was they couldn't get in contact with all the modders. Some people were just disappeared, weren't connected with the project anymore. And then the third one was they were like, okay, we will cut out anybody we can't get to sign. We will cut out their portions and push what we can. And then just before it was ready for launch, the suits at Lucasfilm just said no and told them to drop the project completely. And that's when Aspire announced the cancellation and offered the compensation out of their own pocket. If we are to believe Aspire, of course.
Sure.
So anyway, that's what we get. And last month, they asked the court to dismiss the case because the customers who brought the lawsuit, quote, can't prove harm, standing, knowledge, or damages, end quote. Specifically because they say they've argued the DLC that they were going to add has no real value, which would speak to the harm, to the standing, and to the damages, because those things you have to prove. And speaking to their knowledge, they said, hey, we legit thought that we could deliver when we advertised that we were going to make that happen. And so we'll see. Maybe this is the end of the line, but it is interesting because I don't know about you, but I have never heard before about Lucasfilm shutting them down on it. And when we don't have lawsuits, things are covered by NDAs, and we just have settlements and stuff like that. We never find out what really happened, supposedly. And that's not the law, but that is a bit of legalese.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing, man.
Yeah, of course.
And hey, thank you all for sharing your time with us on your commute, in your spaceship, whatever you're doing. Thank you for listening. Before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into across all platforms. And Mac, birthday boy, what you been watching and playing, man?
As for watching, the newest season of Taskmaster, Jason Mantzoukas is on it. It's fantastic. Also, I've been watching Andor. Did season 1 and working on season 2, which recently came out. As for playing, though, all my usuals, but I have also just recently beaten for the first time It Takes Two.
Nice. You played it with your spouse?
No, I played it with my buddy over in North Carolina. We found a time each week to play a little bit together. It was good times. So just beat it and yeah, loved it. I can see why it got Game of the Year.
Yeah, fantastic game. One of the best co-op games ever. Well, as far as playing, I've been doing more playing than watching with what little time I've had. I've been playing my Analog Pocket Mac. I've been playing this little cartridge that y'all may not be able to see. It may be blurred out. Donkey Kong Land. And I have a video somewhere of me as a kid getting this game for Christmas. And it's me, super skinny, young, nice guy, opening up a present and going, Donkey Kong Land, yes! Like the most I'd ever been excited as a kid at Christmas. And this game has so much nostalgia.
The first person to gift 100 subs winds up getting to see that. That will make Mr. Nice Guy release the footage.
We'll upload it to YouTube. But it's funny, I was playing it today and I almost got teary-eyed, man. Like I was playing one of the levels and it brought back the memories. Mac, you ever have that feeling where you hear the music in a game and it reminds you of like when you were young playing that game, or a point in your life when you were playing that game? And I had that tonight. I was all in the feels. It was so amazing. Of a simpler time, not a better time, not a worse time, but of a simpler time when it was about games and free time and whatnot. So So good memories there. Also, I did get some gaming in this weekend with a couple friends.
Nice.
Played some Call of Duty Zombies, and then Spennis and I squatted up to play the Division 2, which I had not played in a long time, and he hadn't played either. We bought it at the same time when it came out, I believe, and we dove back in this weekend, and it was so much fun. So shout out to Spennis. We had a blast. And that's it, Mac. Why don't you take us home, man?
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and being part of the show, for being here for episode 346. We appreciate you. Please feel free to join us, either whether you're listening on your commute and you can make it out Mondays, twitch.tv/2nerdsandapod with the number 2, of course. We would love to have you here to try and stump us with your nerdy trivia and give us your impressions on the things that we are talking about. But until we see you next time, remember to be excellent to each other, vote for us in the upcoming podcast awards starting in July, and keep it nerdy, y'all.
Deuces.